Up next is a group by the name of Codilux. So image sensors are getting more and more sophisticated each day, and it's because of the fundamental research going on in computer vision and programmable chips that's pushing the state of the art of technology in our very hands. I'm very happy to introduce the Codilux team, which is an example of such an innovation. You're on mute, Roman.
Thank you for this introduction, Hassan. It is my pleasure to present to this audience the opportunities our company, Codilux, offers. We aim to offer fast, field-programmable image sensors for versatile, low-cost imaging. Future image sensors are the eyes of smart technologies in the forthcoming eras of artificial intelligence and cognition. Today's smartphone cameras are already very good and inexpensive. This is mainly because they use computational photography to digitally enhance images by means of software processing. The key ingredient in computational photography is the so-called burst imaging, when many shots are taken and combined into one enhanced image, as shown in the example on the right here. This approach fails in other applications where fast motion or rapidly changing illumination are present, such as drones, automated vehicles, surveillance, robotics, and augmented reality. So future image sensors will have to rely on a combination of fast imaging and computation to tolerate motion and maintain the same low cost as in the smartphones. Additionally, if a single type of an image sensor could serve all of these applications, significant further cost savings would be obtained. But the problem is the high cost and poor performance of existing high-speed cameras. Let me put this in context. There are two main classes of cameras. The first class is the conventional cameras, such as in most smartphones. They are inexpensive, below $50, but have relatively slow exposure, usually well below 300 exposures per second, and therefore are not tolerant to fast motion. This leads to computational imaging artifacts, such as ghosting, when, for example, instead of one flying bird, you see as many birds as the number of shots in a burst, as you see on the right. These cameras are also inflexible, usually designed for one imaging technique. On the other end of the spectrum are the so-called high frame rate cameras. The high exposure speed enables motion tolerance and creates opportunities for versatility in terms of implementing many imaging techniques in one camera. These cameras can operate over 100 times faster, but at a proportionally higher cost, at $5,000 or higher. The cost is dominated by the hardware needed to handle the high-speed video output. Additionally, for computational imaging, alignment of multiple images captured in a burst is highly complex and power-intensive. So these cameras also commonly suffer from image quality issues. These limitations arise from the key property of both of these camera types. Only one exposure is performed for one readout. Our solution is a new class of image sensors with high exposure rate, with as many as 30,000 exposures per second. This exposure rate is a factor of 100 or more higher than the best cell phone cameras and allows for tolerating fast motion. The readout speed is maintained low at the standard video rate, as no hardware is needed to handle the high-speed video output. The cost can be well below $50 or less than 1% of the cost of high frame rate cameras. So our sensors perform multiple exposures for each readout. Such a reduction in the readout rate is made possible by in-pixel computation, which we refer to as pixel coding. This computation enables a versatile all-in-one solution where the camera can be reprogrammed by the end user in the field to implement any of a vast range of computational imaging techniques simply by reconfiguring its firmware, the pixel codes. Besides versatility, it also offers further cost savings by consolidating manufacturing and simplifying supply chains. Our core technology is what we call pixel coding, where each pixel can be individually turned on and off in many small intervals. For example, here, the corner pixels are off, they are not exposed, and the rest of the pixels are exposed. The signal recorded by each pixel is accumulated but not immediately read out. For each subsequent fast exposure, these pixel codes can be arbitrarily changed. For example, here we expose 2 parallel lines of pixels. And here we expose another 2 lines of pixels. We can perform up to 1,000 such exposures per video frame, with each pixel having accumulated the coded photo signal before it's read out at the end of the frame. So our first patent that is granted protects this IP. Yet we have additional IP protection for one of the immediate applications of this technology, and this is in high dynamic range imaging. In conventional cameras, the exposure is typically the same for all pixels, leading to underexposed and overexposed areas in the image, as you can see in this portrait. Our technology adaptively adjusts the exposure of each of the pixels based on the brightness of the scene, eliminating these issues. The competition includes the following 4 types of sensors, shown in the 4 columns here. All of the competitors aim to have motion-tolerant image sensors, but most are below our exposure rate. None offer per-pixel coding, versatility, and adaptivity that we offer. And none offer a combination of low power, high image quality, and cost that our product offers. Most conventional sensors are application-specific, leading to high manufacturing costs and complex supply chains due to the limited functionality and fragmented utility, even within a single market segment. Our coded sensors are application agnostic. They are reconfigurable by the end user in the field to implement one of many imaging techniques, simply by changing pixel codes in firmware. So we can serve multiple different market segments among those shown here. Indeed, our image sensors are highly versatile. We have already received over $2.5 million in non-diluted research funding from US DARPA and from the Canadian government, which has enabled us to demonstrate our prototypes in the following 6 different applications, as you see on the right. They are high dynamic range imaging, 3D imaging, depth selective imaging, high frame rate imaging, subsurface imaging of translucent objects, and multispectral imaging. All of these techniques are implemented by the same camera with only a firmware reconfiguration, simply by changing the pixel codes. Our initial focus is on the automotive segment, which is about 7% of the total image sensor market. For this segment, our image sensor implements the top 3 imaging modality outlined in green color here, and helps improve robustness of automated cars in challenging imaging conditions. Our team includes myself, Kiros, and Philip. I'm an expert in microelectronics with 7 startup companies spun off from my research projects. Kiros is an expert in computer vision and serves on the advisory board of 2 startup companies in this field. And Philip is a seasoned industry executive who held leading roles at GM, Marvell, BlackBerry, and he's currently a CEO of Odeya. Now, our strategy is to scale up from today and have 2 milestones over 18 and 36 months. So today we are over 2.5 million in research grants. We have IP granted and more is filed. We have over 7 prototypes and over 8 imaging technique demonstrated experimentally. We have early stage conversations with first customers. They include camera, system, and AI software manufacturers, as well as image sensor manufacturers. We are looking to raise $750,000 pre-seed to secure a team and a CEO and complete prototypes, and to bring prototypes for 3D, depth selective, and spectral imaging. Also, we'll look to complete pilots with our early stage partners. Over the 36 months, we look to expand partnerships and enter future markets, including consumer, surveillance, agriculture, industrial automation, home robotics, logistics, and health. This brings me to the end of my presentations, and I'm open to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Roman. First question, could you please give a few more examples of the applications of your cameras in the automotive sector?
Absolutely. So we are in early conversations with several vision system developments for the automotive sector. And the 3 applications we target are listed on this backup slide here. So one is single shot high dynamic range imaging, where we can image bright and dark objects simultaneously without motion artifacts. And this is important for fast moving vehicles. That's one application. The second one is so-called single shot 3D imaging. This is important for accurate monitoring of driver safety. So things like distracted driving, impaired driving, fatigue, drowsiness, so forth. And the third one is imaging technique that is called single shot depth selected imaging. So in this case, we're able to see, quote unquote, through snow or through rain and detect and visualize objects such as other road participants better without the bright reflections coming back from say, raindrops or snowflakes.
Okay. While I bring up the other question, maybe you can bring up your presentation because I don't see it right now. You can just share a screen one more time. So the next question is, who will be managing the business initiatives? For example, who is the CEO?
I currently act as the CEO for the company.
Okay.
We are open to expanding team and at some point finding a CEO that's better qualified to manage the activities.
Okay. Next question, where exactly do the cost savings come from?
So the cost savings come from several sources. And you're saying you're not able to see my screen?
We can see it now. You're good.
You can see it now. So the reasons are twofold. One reason is that we're able to perform a very high-speed imaging, very high-speed exposure, but our readout rate is low. So low readout rate means all of the camera hardware that follows the image sensor, memory, processor, and so on and so forth, can be used from any standard low-cost camera without any additional expenses. And the second reason is that we could replace multiple different types of cameras with a single solution. That means we could basically consolidate manufacturing, reduce cost of manufacturing, shipping, and make the supply chain simpler.
Okay, next question. Could you please give examples for health applications for your technology?
So I mentioned to you that our cameras can implement various types of imaging techniques. One example of application in the imaging domain is this imaging modality at the bottom here. I refer to it as subsurface imaging. What this is our cameras are able to see through the surface of translucent objects, for example, through skin. So we have a demonstrated ability to image blood vessels, veins, for example. So that opens up an application space in the health sector.
Do you have any images of the blood vessel application, Roman? just for the audience's sake? If not, it's no worries.
I'm happy to share it offline. I'm not prepared to share it now, but I do have them.
Okay. Next question. Is there a strategy in place to shift from pilots to paying customers?
Yes, there are various ideas we're exploring strategy-wise. I think our lowest hanging fruit is the automotive sector, where the needs are present and the demand is immediate. Our most ready product is the HDR, high dynamic range cameras. They do not require additional components, additional technologies. There's no illumination or any light sources that are required. So the idea would be to work with a manufacturer of integrated circuits in the automotive space and come up maybe with a revenue sharing agreement that would allow us to then fund some of the other activities in other sectors.
Okay, next question. Could you please define your go-to market strategy for approaching potential users? Is B2B your plan, and do you have any leads?
So the strategy is to work with two types of partners. One type of partner is image sensor manufacturer. We've entered into, after 6 months of negotiations, we've entered into three-way NDA with one such partner, where assuming volumes pick up and we can scale up, we could delegate the manufacturing and even use their supply chain and logistics for through a revenue sharing agreement. On the other end, we also are looking to work with vision system manufacturers and camera manufacturers to better understand the needs and the challenges they face, and to find opportunities for volume.
Okay, next question. What kind of image resolutions do you obtain? Do you sacrifice anything compared to current sensors to obtain the higher quality images?
That's a good question. Thanks for the question. So currently our prototypes, the highest resolution is VGA, which is on the low end for the consumer segment, but actually in line with some of the demands in the automotive sector. The penalties for that we have to deal with are twofold. One is that our pixel size is a little bit bigger than the simplest camera that is used for one application. This actually is inconsequential in many cases, because we will be using so-called 3D stacking technology, where some of that complexity can be pushed on another chip in the stack. And the second modification to the conventional camera design is that we have to actually generate these pixel codes. So we put a capable microprocessor, low power microprocessor, on the second chip in the chip stack to be able to locally generate these codes without extra power demands.
Okay. This is a question that investors always ask you. What is the exit strategy? Who do you feel could be your acquirer?
So we've had conversations with potential acquirers that came, searching for us. We did not even reach out to them. One included a top cell phone manufacturer in Asia. So this would be basically cell phone market. We've had conversations with several companies in the automotive sector. I don't think that necessarily would be the auto manufacturers themselves, but there are companies we're talking to who say design navigation systems and vision systems for automated vehicles for many, if not most, of the automotive manufacturers. So there are options, and I think whichever of the options is the most beneficial and valuable would be our choice.
Okay. Are there any supplementary technologies required, and do you have access to them?
That's not a good question. So you have to distinguish between two types of imaging. One is something known as a passive imaging. It doesn't require a dedicated light source. And another one is something known as active imaging that requires a dedicated light source. So for this examples here, only 2 on the left are passive, and the other 4 are active applications on the right. What that means is that we need to have ability to integrate our camera with light sources, and some opportunities exist. For example, Audi cars already have headlights that are projectors, so they are they are a natural fit for us because we use projectors for coded illumination to be combined with coded pixels. For in-camera, for in-cabin imaging in cars, again, there are near infrared light sources that project certain patterns that allows us to do structured light imaging and other types of 3D imaging.
Awesome. Thank you very much for this presentation, Roman. Much appreciated.
Thank you.